Hey, loves, it's Dr. Simone Ellis. And I know that many of you listeners out here are bosses, you are phenomenal people, but you're also carrying a lot of different hats. Your identity may be mom, it may be counselor on the side. I mean, we have so many different things going on, right? And so today I'm super excited because I'm bringing on a guest who has figured out how to heal yourself and is getting all women, especially women of color, an opportunity to do the work. Fatima, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Me too, and especially since you have figured out the 411, the formula on how to do it all. Because I don't know about you, I don't have kids, but I'm a rich auntie, and that seems stressful. So for the people that have actual children that are pulling on them and that need so much energy and effort from them, I don't know. It sounds like a very strong healing process. And so, guys, as you know, Beyond the Chair is not just things that you're doing clinically in the chair, but it's how for you to be amazing. And so I am excited about this conversation. Fatima, I would love for the opportunity for us to get to know who you are and how you started on this journey.
Yes, I would love to share. So, my name is Fatima. I'm the founder of Sis Heal Yourself, and Sis Heal Yourself is a digital platform that was birthed out of my own healing journey. It is a space where women of color can converge their faith and mental health and just find community and tools to work on the things that are important to them, whether it's setting boundaries with people, whether it's finding your purpose, or whether it's working on your mental health. I'm just so grateful that it has become something that I would have never imagined. It was supposed to be a space just for me, to kind of separate out my personal page from just wanting to process my own mental health journey. But it has become so much more than that. And I'm really grateful to have that space.
I'm grateful that you created that space because you're walking in your purpose and then giving women an opportunity to, as you say, heal yourself. So talk a little bit about how did you come up with the title, and where was that pivot where you're like, this is good, I need to keep running with it.
Yeah, really good question. And it's so funny. I was just talking about this with someone else earlier or last week now. And the name really came out of a conversation with another friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been to therapy. I am a therapist. I still go to therapy, and that's part of the journey too, right? But when you're healing yourself, it's like taking that extra step. It's taking the next step, really applying the things that you're learning and evolving into the person that you desire to be. And so not only does it sound good, but I think it's just like, and it's very simple language, but it also just makes you sit back and think like, yeah, I can heal myself and I can do it through many different avenues, whether it's prayer, whether it's going to therapy, whether it's switching up your friends, just doing the things that will help you to feel good about who you are as a person.
Yeah, I think that now we're moving into a really great space where people are really taking the time to understand, I can read all the books, I can take all the
Yes.
courses, but am I actually applying it to my day to day? And I love what you're saying also, too, elevating our circles, elevating our groups of people around us. We sometimes don't realize how much of a hindrance that's hurting
Hmm.
our healing, right? And
Hmm.
so I want to first start off with a fun part of our segment, which is, what are you drinking? So the segment is,
Ooh.
how are you decompressing? Every time we pick up a cocktail, it's our way of kicking our hair back, letting
Yeah.
ourselves loose. And so for some people, it is a cocktail. For others, it may be a journey as far as like, I make sure I go to the spa. So for me today, what I am drinking, guys, is a nice orange juice with a little bit of champagne. Can we me get a little mimosa going on. Let me talk about why I'm drinking that. Mondays are, and we're taping on a Monday. Mondays are the start of your week, right? And I don't know, when I'm at brunch, I absolutely love orange juice, right? Like, I love it because it's something fresh, it's bitter, it's citrusy. And even when we think about aromatherapy, right, one of the things that oranges or citrus does is it awakens these senses, right? It keeps us up. So I'm feeling awakened. I've like crushed my day already. I went to the gym. I actually got back into tennis today. Shout out to Coco Golf. She not ready.
Yes.
But I feel very alive today, and that's what I'm drinking for my decompression. Tell me, sis, what are you drinking?
Oh my gosh. So the first thing that popped up in my mind, even though it is Monday at 2 p.m. So there is this drink that I love. So I don't know what you all call it in your area of the country, but we call them Arnold Palmers.
Okay.
Which is sweet tea and lemonade.
Yes.
So if I have to drink that during the day, I will drink. I love a good Arnold Palmer. Like, it's just a perfect combination. But if I'm gonna drink it at night, I put a little bit of Crown Peach in there.
Okay.
And it's wonderful. Like, it is just great. So though that I would say is my drink, because it's not quite, summer is not quite over. So
it's definitely not in Houston. It's still 100 degrees there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, so in New York right now it's like 50 degrees. So you can tell like summer is coming to an end.
Wow.
Yes.
You guys actually have a transition to fall.
Yes. But like, I still want to enjoy my summer drinks.
Yes.
And so the Arnold Palmer is where it's at for me.
I'm here for it, and I love it. And cheers to you with your Arnold Palmer and my orange juice. We're just very much so, having a moment. So, all right. So let's go ahead and get into the actual podcast, which today we are talking about, the different hats that you do wear and how you are juggling being a mom and being an entrepreneur. And I really want to tie in, your company as well, which is the healing process of it. So can you share a brief story with us that beautifully captures your experience in juggling roles as a mom, as a wife, and as a boss?
Yes, I feel like I'm definitely in a transition right now. So I am the mom of a 4-year-old.
Ooh, child.
Yes, 4-year-old little girl, and she is like, that's my little best friend, but she has a lot of energy. And 2 weeks ago she started school. And so for me, I had to figure out, okay, how am I still going to be present for her? Show up at work, make sure dinner is on the table. And so I have really had to overhaul my schedule. But what I recognized in doing that is that as long as family comes first, everything else will fall into place. So it has caused me to say no to some things. I've just had to reprioritize. I always say that in order to achieve balance, you have to have order, right? So I put things in the right order. For me, family comes first. And so I've had to block off the same time every day so I can go and pick her up. And at first I thought that it was going to be like an obstacle for me because it's one of my busier times to see clients. But I have actually really enjoyed going to pick her up, get to know how she's doing, how her day was, get her settled and give her a snack and all of these things. And it really hasn't been much of a disruption as I thought it would be. And so I think for me, I have to make sure that what is important comes first. And that doesn't mean that work isn't important. But if I'm putting things in the right order, then that's when I start to feel the balance that I'm looking for. And I've certainly seen that even just in the last 2 weeks with having to change up my schedule.
Yeah. Well, first, kudos to you because I think that is super important. I had the pleasure of going to a Brendan Burchard conference this weekend for Growth Day. And one of the things that he said that was very powerful was plan your work around your life and not your life around your work. Yes. And block, another thing that I think is important that I try to reiterate and stress, and I have to hold myself accountable to it too, is the blocking of time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people do not have calendars and they're wondering why there is chaos. And so
Mm-hmm.
without calendars, there will be chaos because you're not running into your day intentionally, right? And
Right.
so I encourage people to really understand exactly like you said, and also letting go of the guilt that it is to like live, right? Your
Yeah.
daughter,
Yeah.
these moments that you have, they're not just beneficial for your daughter, but they're food for you. They're like fuel for
Mm-hmm.
you to continue to be the best version of yourself for your clients, for your husband, and for your family. And so I want to again commend you because you're really making sure that your work is around your life and not your
Yeah.
life around your work. So good
Yeah.
job there.
Thank
My
you.
my next question for you is that, you know, what strategies have you implemented in your business that has also benefited you as a mom and a wife?
Mm-hmm. Really good question. So one of the things that I had to tell myself when I went into business is, Fatima, you cannot do it all.
Mm,
You cannot be the assistant and the therapist and this and that. You need to learn how to delegate. And that
mm.
was really difficult for me because I am that person that's like, nope, I'll do it. I got it. I Nobody can do it like me. I'm gonna do it. And I had to humble myself.
Yeah, yeah,
And I had to get an assistant. And so I got an assistant, and she's absolutely amazing. And not only does she help me to kind of manage both work and life, but she expands my ability to do my job. Like, if anything, what I'm able to do is more now that I have her on my team. And so one of the things that I do with her is not only we don't just talk about, what needs to get done during the week, but I tell her what's going on in my life.
yeah,
Like, these are the things that are going on in my life right now. And she helps me to stay accountable, whether it's like blocking my schedule off or just checking in with me, which I think is really helpful, because when you're a boss, you are constantly checking in on other people, and you need somebody to just genuinely want to know how you're doing without really wanting anything in return. If anything, she helps me to kind of reinforce that life work balance that you talk about.
yeah.
And so that I think has really, really helped me to manage and just balance everything, but also, focus on what I need to focus on and not have my hands in all these different pots that they don't need to be in anyway.
And I think that when you uncover or discover that you can have a lot of things going on in your life, but you cannot do it all, like you could have everything that you want, you just can't do it all yourself, right?
Yeah.
That is a freeing thing because it allows you to understand, like, you know, hey, like, yeah, you could be doing another hour of something at work as opposed to picking up your daughter, but your daughter is important, right? You could
Mm-hmm.
be having you can work for another 4 hours, but your husband's important. And
Exactly.
also, like, there's something in science we talk about called the rate limiting factor. And so the rate limiting factor is you have baking soda and you have vinegar. And we all know when you put those things together, you get a reaction, right? You get that
Yes.
fizz, whatever. And sidebar, why do black mamas make you drink that when your stomach is up? Because, like, honestly, if you think about that, like, that's like a lot of explosion going on in your
It's a
stomach.
lot.
It's too much. Like, I don't think that's okay. But sidebar, mama, I am talking
Sidebar.
about you because you did that all the time. Anyways,
It was a trigger.
it
That's
was
okay.
yeah, I was like, I just like all of a sudden like just started neurotically like, oh my God. But with that, right, after a while, right, you can keep adding baking soda to that reaction, and eventually that reaction fizzles out, right? So we have to
Yes.
remember that we are the baking soda, right? And we only have so much vinegar to be added to make our reaction happen.
Mhm.
When you start
Mhm.
to see the fizzle out, when you start to see that there's not as much of a reaction, it might be time to add some more vinegar. And that might not be you, that might be adding that
Right.
assistant, these people in. So, girl, you're on it already. This is why you're a boss. Like, I love it. Let's keep rolling. So, what have been the initial challenges when you started juggling these roles? Because I think guys, I love you. I love you guys so much. I love you, right? And I am not a mom, so I don't know that role. It seems very heavy. My sister seems very frazzled a lot, so I can only imagine. But I think that sometimes men don't have to have that same nurturing experience. Not all, but, you know, I think that that's a very much so of a role that women tend to play in our patriarchal society. And that can be overwhelming sometimes. And so how are you able to throw up all of these balls? I'm just talking about men, and then I thought of balls, and it was just so funny. Sorry. But how are you able to juggle? I'm 5. I'm like literally a 5-year-old, right? How are you able to juggle? How are you able to juggle all of the things that you have to do with these roles and the impact it's making?
Yeah. So I think this was really hard for me. A couple things are coming up as I'm thinking about the question. The first is, and I also coach therapists, business owners.
Okay.
And one of the things that I tell them is that whatever you're dealing with in your personal life is going to show up in your business. Well,
Yes.
I'm not the exception to that rule, right? So, I really lacked boundaries when I first started. And not only boundaries with people, but it was starting to, spill into my business. And so I really had to figure out, okay, what is my plan? What is my purpose? And what does not fit that? And saying no to things that just no longer were serving me. Like, I definitely believe that there's a season for things. And so some seasons had to come to an end. Friendships started to evolve or fall
Yep.
away. And, there's like a grieving that comes with that you just have to accept. And so what I have learned is, instead of resisting that kind of change or evolution, accept it and just allow yourself to feel whatever you need to feel to get through it. So that is like number one, is that, I really needed to put some hard parameters around things, because otherwise I was going to just kind of put myself in a situation I didn't want to. The goal of going into business for yourself is to have the freedom, is to have more balance. It is to have, financial capital. It's not to continue to do things the way that you've always been doing them. And so that was something that I wasn't expecting going into business for myself. And then the second thing I would say is, I think I just had to remember my why, because I would often get really discouraged. That imposter syndrome was real. I knew that I had a vision for things, but sometimes, when you are looking to the left and to the right and you're seeing other people and how they're doing it, it can cause you to question like what you have inside of you. And so I had to really like shut off all of that noise and distraction and focus on my assignment and my purpose, and truly believe that what's for me won't pass me by.
Yeah. I think that you touched on some amazing points. One of the things that I wanted to piggyback on with that, if you mind the dialogue back and forth, is trees. We don't think about trees having, feelings or pain, because we don't know that, right? No one's shown that, but they're live, right? And when you prune a tree, right, I can imagine if you were pruning a human or something, you're snipping off something because it's dead, that there's a pain associated to it, right? I think that we have to think about, though, that tree in order to continue to thrive has to be pruned. And, to your point, it doesn't mean that process of taking that branch off or we just assume that it doesn't hurt, right? But I mean, visually cutting something and removing something from the body has to have some form of, impact. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you are in this stage of flourishing and in a stage of growing, we have to remember that sometimes the pruning part is just painful just so that we can get to the flourishing and growing
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
The other thing that you said that I'm now connecting to my own self is, I call it a quarterly pump up. That's what I've just termed it, or quarterly cheerleading session, because I'm realizing that in life we all have this imposter syndrome, right? I think even the top of the top, the best of the
Yeah.
best, are still inside internally fighting on this imposter syndrome. And why I'm talking about quarters, this is about every 90 days. I feel like I notice in myself that I get to kind of this like, I've been going at it. Am I kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, am I kind
Mm-hmm.
of, is my tank empty? And so I need a
Yeah.
pump. Like I need something to pump me back up. And so I think that people should be more intentional about scheduling things to get them out of imposter syndrome. Whether it's, for me, I am a living self-help like consumer. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm realizing, okay, every time I go to a conference, every time I go to a session with other people who are also probably experiencing the same things that I'm experiencing, I'm bumped back up, right? I'm pumped
Yeah.
back up because I'm hearing stories about them and I'm like, girl, you got this. And they're giving it right back to me. It's a cheerleading squad. So whatever that is, making sure that's a part of your rhythm. And the last thing I think about is the impact of one versus the impact of many. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we have gotten into a space with social media, especially, where it feels like because we're getting viewed by one person and that
Yeah.
only gets a couple of likes or a couple of views, means that the message is not as important as the
Yeah.
message that gets thousands of likes and viral, like it's viral content. And for me, shout out to the young lady that told me this. I adore you. I sometimes get discouraged myself. I'm like, this is a lot, girl. Like, you're doing a lot. And I got a message on Instagram that said, I have been watching you since I have been in college, and I cannot wait to start
Mm-hmm.
applying everything that you've been talking about. Now, this is years ago, because if she's a dentist, that means that this is 8 years. I mean, I've been at this for a minute, and I thought, it's just that one was so impactful in comparison to the
Yeah.
thousands, So I encourage you as well. Like, it's sometimes we've just gotten so consumed about how many, and that one has a ripple effect to do a lot of work as well, right?
Oh my gosh, you are so right. I mean, the algorithm is not rhythming.
It's
Like it's
not. It's
not.
not.
It's not. And you're so right, because you never know like what's gonna hit and what isn't. Like I remember I posted something about like I put tabs on my DSM and that thing got so many hits. And I got this other content trying to inspire people.
Girl.
And it's got like 50 views. And it's like, dang. But if you put too much worth or value into that, it pulls you away from why you're
So
doing it in
much.
the first place.
Yeah, your wires got to be tied. Like, I feel the same. I'll put a swimsuit picture up and I'm like, and
Yeah.
guys, I know it seems confusing, but I'm also confused about the algorithm. So I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm like, well, let me go put this Fashion Nova dress on and be like,
Right.
y'all still here? All right, great. And then keep it moving. But it's not. And I have to tell myself that too. And I think, guys, for anybody who's listening that is really struggling with that consistency portion of it because of what you feel like the impact is, we got to get
Mhm.
off that, right? It's the one versus the many, and I think that the one matters. The many will come. So
Mhm.
my next question is that, how do you ensure that your entrepreneurial spirit is nurtured while managing your household responsibilities?
Mhm. Yeah, that's really good. So, because when you're a mom and you're a wife, you can go on autopilot real quick. And I like, even if you're not a mom or a wife, it's really easy to go on autopilot and just go throughout your day, do your routine, go to bed, you wake up and you do the same thing over and over and over again. For me to nurture my entrepreneurial spirit, I have to be around other entrepreneurs. Like I in my everyday life, it's just me for the most part. me and my family, that's pretty much it. So I have to be really, really intentional about surrounding myself with folks who are on the same journey as I am. And they don't even necessarily have to be therapists, just entrepreneurs, because that entrepreneur mindset, it is different. It is different than going to a 9 to 5, and there's nothing wrong with a person who is not an entrepreneur. But when you're an entrepreneur, if you're always the only one, you will constantly question yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You will constantly question, like, am I doing the right thing? Is this really going to work? And so, in order to combat that, for me, is getting around folks who are having to think the same way that I have to think when it comes to running a business, being creative, you know, thinking about how to scale, all of that.
Yeah.
Because it helps get your wheels turning too.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Like we can't
yeah.
just do it alone, and you do need. I'm even a person that recommends being around entrepreneurs that are not in your industry, right?
Yeah.
So dentists, guys, y'all got to get around other people who are not dentists because we are looking at sometimes the same lens and the same lens color. There's a lot of colors out here, guys. Like there's a rose
Hmm.
colored glasses, there's yellow, there's blue, but you're right on the mark with that.
Hmm.
So now, how do you build a support system that assists you in your entrepreneurial ventures and at home? Like how
Yeah.
is it the same or is it different?
Yeah, so there is some overlap. There's definitely some overlap. I think in terms of the entrepreneurial side of things, Sis Heal Yourself has yielded a lot of great friendships, people
Mm,
that I would never know if I hadn't started that page. And I'm really grateful for that because that's like, a cherry on top. I didn't expect that to be, an outcome. So that has been great. Just connecting with folks really across the country who, share similar values or interests. And then I have found that, being a mom of a little one, it is hard to connect with your friends,
mm,
especially if your friends either don't have kids or their kids are older, like, high school or whatever. And so I really try to be intentional about spending time with all of my friends, but particularly those who have little ones. We, plan things where they can play and we can play.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like they go off and do something and then we go get a drink or something like that because um that I don't want to say it's a struggle, but it can be a struggle to be a mom of a little one because you often feel isolated. Babysitting doesn't always come through,
Yeah.
and so I think the overarching theme here is community, like finding your people and, you know, staying close to them and encouraging one another and being there for each other, that really makes such a difference. And so yeah, I have some friends who know what I'm doing on the entrepreneur side and they are supportive there. They don't want nothing to do with any kids, and that's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
okay, right? And I have my people who, whatever my little one needs, they got it. And so it works out. It really does.
Yeah, and I think that when you have tribes in different areas, right? Tribes for
Yeah.
different things. I'm probably the friend that's the business one, right? For you, like I'd be like, "Hey, girl, I got you. Whatever you
Yeah.
need, we're gonna discuss business. I got you." But I can't relate to the children portion of it, right? But
Hmm.
that doesn't mean that that tribe is not as important. It's just that whatever your
Exactly.
spirit is needing at that time, you're gonna go where your spirit is fed. So you keep the same guys. That's not saying like we're not telling you to X out any of these groups and
Right.
circles. You may lean heavier into one circle just based off of your circumstances at that time, and then as your circumstances change you may evolve out. So I think being
Exactly.
open to elevate, right, is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. And to add to that, what you're really saying is like put people where they belong. Like
Mm.
if you know that you have that friend who's going to show up in one area of your life but not in the other, don't expect them to show
Girl.
up in one area. Like it's okay. It doesn't make them a bad friend. if you keep them where they belong, you will appreciate them so much more and you will not be frustrated.
Oh my God, I wish you were around like years ago. I'm like, I did not know that. I'm just now understanding that. And I think that that also goes for spouses too. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
we don't think about that, but like everybody is not supposed to be everything to you. And when you understand that, like, I'll have friends that'll be like, well, he should be doing this and that and that. I'm like, girl, that's what girlfriend over here is for. That's not what
Exactly.
this person's role is. So I completely agree. I want to respect your time because you are a superstar and a mommy. I have tons of questions I want to get into, but I do want to honor your time for us. And so, guys, if you are a Smile Design Society member, you will get a couple more moments with this beautiful woman to kind of talk a little bit deeper about some of the questions that I do have. If you're not, feel free to subscribe to our platform, of course, because as we're talking about community, if you're not a part of one, you should be. Fatima, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank
I
you.
am so like, it was a great conversation that I would love to explore a little bit deeper, but I am
Absolutely.
grateful for your energy and your light. I don't take it lightly for any of my guests being on the show, but especially you today. Thank you for your time. Now, if people need to heal themselves, sis, where do they go?
Yes. Find me. I'm at Sis Heal Yourself on Instagram. We are also on Facebook. Follow me at Sis Heal Yourself.
I love it. Guys, let's make sure we do the work, and the people who are doing the work and helping us with the framework to get it done are people like Fatima. Fatima, thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Guys, this is Beyond the Chair. Be sure to subscribe, like, and I need to get feedback. I need to know, are y'all liking what I'm giving? You guys are sending it to me in my inbox, but put it in my comments. Come on, y'all. Y'all know this algorithm I don't understand. Let's go ahead and boost this up, okay? Love you guys, dentists. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Let's do this work. Let's do this balance, and let's lead in love. Thank you, guys.